What's up, y'all? I'm Miss Megan Liana, and welcome to Be Fucking For Real, unfiltered takes and unapologetic truths. If it is in the headlines, if it's on your timeline, we gonna talk about it on this mic. Coming up, we gotta ask: was the Met Gala gaslighting? Is our favorite rapper addicted to nitrous or attention? And we got to figure out if this statue was flattery or farce. Now, this week or last week, Thomas J. Prince put up this statue in New York City, Times Square, and it's called Grounded in the Stars. Now, it's received a lot of mixed reviews. When I first saw it, I thought people was playing with us, right? And I'm gonna explain why in a little bit, but the artist is Thomas J. Price, and he's black. He's from the UK, and this statue has sparked so much debate, and it's received mixed reviews. Part of it is people are critique. It all boils down to the aesthetics, right? So some people are saying that the image of black woman, it's unattractive, she's ugly, she got an attitude, she's this, she's that. Whereas a lot of us know women that look like this. I I know people that look like this and they're beautiful as fuck. I would never call them ugly. But what I questioned with his motives were because putting a statue like this in Times Square, and it's such a busy location, and the times that we're in right now, um, the ridicule in the conversation that it sparks is, for me, what made me question the artist's motives. Now, now he did a video, he did an interview where he went into more detail about his current art exhibit, where he has multiple 12-foot statues of different representations of everyday black women, black men. And the whole premise of this exhibit was making people feel seen who are invisible. And once I heard his perspective and his reasoning for it, I was sold. Because again, my concern was the person and the motives. If this was a white guy, I definitely would have been like, nah, he's playing in our face. Um, but when you listen to his story and his reasoning and his inspiration, um, his intentions were pure, and it does represent a lot of black women. And who's to say what is aesthetically pleasing or what's not? I think that part of the question that comes into play is like, well, people love to scrutinize black beauty, and there is there's always ridicule when it comes to the looks of black women, from our hair to our weight to our size to our attitude. And because of the constant critiques of black women, that's what I don't like about the statue and it being in Times Square in New York, because it's causing a lot of people to make fun of the statue, and it's not causing, there's a lot of ignorant people out there, and so they're taking the opportunity to use this to down black women. And that is what bothers me the most. And another thing is, like, if you look on TikTok, it's a lot of black women. There are black women that, were talking down on this representation. And I think that while while these conversations are going on, I think we need to look at like who's saying what with respect to if like if there's a black person that's talking down on this statue, if there's a black woman that's saying, "Oh, this is," or a black man that's saying like, "Oh, this is ugly. Oh, she could be this, she could be that." I think like we need to look at one, what their moms look like, and two, what they look like in high school or in their childhood, and if they were made fun of for having this aesthetic. You know, when I was a chubby kid, I definitely, and I couldn't dress, I definitely fit this aesthetic. And so, but because I was so ridiculed when I was a child and because I was made fun of, I hated it. And so I think that when we see our own hating on this, I think it's like a reflection of a ugliness that they felt in themselves, or a ugliness that they saw in some people that might have been closest to them. And I think they're projecting that. Does it make it right? Absolutely the fuck not. Uh do I hope that because one thing I have loved when it comes to the like the positive feedback of that statue is that people are like, "Oh my god, she does look like my mom," or "Oh, she does look like me." And it's like that was the artist's goal, to shine a light on people and um different variations of black women and young black men and black males uh that are unseen. And so again, his full exhibit, when I saw the video and the explanations, I totally get it. So but that's the thing about art. It's supposed to make you talk, right? It's supposed to make you think. It's supposed to make you be like, "Oh my god." Like it's supposed to start these conversations. So, well done, Mr. Price. Um on to our next story. This guy, Kanye West. You know, if it's one thing that Ye gonna do, he gonna Ye, right? And he has been since the fucking Grammys, he's been on one. And from the Grammy incident to where he made his wife damn near look naked, to like all the Twitter rants, to the Nazi t-shirt. And he's really branding himself heavy right now as a Nazi and a white supremacist. And so, you know, when he did the interview with DJ Academics, he wore a Ku Klux Klan outfit. And now the thing is that he called himself a black skinhead a long time ago. So he's been doing that. But after all of these antics, and like the peak of his antics was when he talked about giving his cousin fellatio, and they had like an incestuous relationship when he was younger, and he gave his cousin head till he was like 14, and he understood it was wrong. But after that came out, then a letter of intent to sue his former dentist was submitted by him and his wife because they are claiming that his dentist got him addicted to nitrous oxide. Now, here's the thing, right? Kanye West, or Ye, was extremely open about his he's mentioned nitrous oxide in a lot of songs, and just a lot. But last year in August, his former chief of staff, Milo, and I want to say his name right, Milo Yiannopoulos, leaked a affidavit excuse me, talking about how Kanye West, or Ye, was addicted to nitrous oxide. And in him saying, like, he released text messages, he released videos, and Nobody gave a fuck. And this was August of last year. And people like mentioned it. Um it was trending and then it wasn't. And so the thing is that for the last the last 3 years, Kanye West has been very open and honest about his nitrous oxide addiction. So let's look at this.
And I was at the dentist office the other day. I was taking a nitrous oxide. I suggested if anybody's like stressed out. Nitrous don't help me, it just put me in a trance. I'm talking about euphoria, I'm not talking about a man.
Ryan Garcia, this Jay, I'm on the nitrous.
So what's up, guys? I spent like all the money for the commercial on these new teeth. Think I'm stuck in a matrix. Where the fuck's my nitrous?
Okay. And so even like the signs have been there. And so even when he was at that award show, that was like the 2022 BET Awards, when he presented Diddy with that Lifetime Achievement Award he got. And so the signs have been there, right? But even when you know the effects of nitrous oxide, like it causes psychosis and it can also lead to early death. And so one of the things that they were saying in his in this letter of intent to sue that they sent to his former dentist, because he spent like almost $1 million on nitrous. And even in that Super Bowl commercial, he was at a nitrous, he was like sitting in a nitrous oxide, like it was the dentist chair, and you could kind of see the whole setup. So clearly he was on the nitrous then. Like he literally sits in the dentist chair and just does nitrous. And the thing that scares me, right, is not scares me, but you know, nothing can take away from the fact that like Kanye West, like, and I'm saying Kanye West because that artist, um, his production level, um, his music, like everything had a purpose, but you could his production level was like top tier, right? And when you listen to like his new music, especially from the last few years, you see the deterioration of his talent. And I think of um people like Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, Prince. Like there are so many greats that we have lost to drug use. And I remember, when Whitney Houston was on drugs, it was just a joke. It was a joke that she was on crack. It was a joke that um the drugs were a joke. And at some point, when it comes to artists, this reminds me of that movie Get 'Em to the Greek. And it's so funny. It was with like Russell Brand and Diddy's in it. And to me, that really highlighted just the drugs, the sex, drugs, and rock star lifestyle in the music industry. And even Russell Brand was in it. And when you look at like, first of all, Russell Brand and P. Diddy are both fighting like rape cases right now. But when you look at like Russell Brand's character and how he was just like addicted to drugs and how he was enabled, like Kanye West is like fully around yes men right now. Like when he's on his stream, on Twitter, like everything he does, he is completely surrounded by yes men. And even when it came to the doctor, the dentist, like that was able to happen because he had a bunch of yes men around him. And don't think any of his spouses or anybody has ever been able to, compose the artist formerly known as Kanye West. Like, he's always been him, he's always been irate, and he says he's autistic, which I do think he's on the spectrum. Like, some of his lyrics, you can kind of tell the obnoxiousness it's giving autistic. I mean, I what does he say? I love, like, there's this one lyric where he says, like, I love your titties because they prove I could focus on two things at once. Um there's just like so many signs of his mental health, right? So even if let's say, so now at first people thought he was bipolar, or he thought he was bipolar, and um he does give signs of bipolar disorder and manic episodes. However, only he knows what his diagnoses are, right? But like, when I saw him his documentary, and they were showing like the videos of old Kanye West, he reminds me of someone on the spectrum. Like, and there's a lot of there's a whole generation of people that were not diagnosed with autism or being on the spectrum because it wasn't known at the time. You know, that the whole spectrum thing is its own like issue within itself, especially when you look at, like, what Robert F. Kennedy is trying to do. I'm not even going to go down that path. However, one thing that stuck out to me was recently Candace Owens sat down with Jason Lee, and they had a talk about Ye, and I want to play something.
I will always love Ye. I will always defend him because I think he did one of the bravest things in speaking about what happened to him, and the questions were never answered about what Harley Pasternak did to him that night. And I think it's what was done to Britney Spears based on my readings of MK Ultra program, which has never been stopped. I think Harley Pasternak it's extremely problematic. And he's literally telling you what happened to him, and no one's listening. And everyone's like, he's gone crazy. They drugged me against my will. And when you read those experiments of how they could literally give somebody a mental disorder via a cocktail of drugs, LA becomes very scary.
Who was that? I didn't hear
Harley
that.
Pasternak,
Yeah.
the trainer that trains all the stars that
okay.
keep dying in baths.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Aaron Carter, when he reached out to Kanye, and when Kanye said Harley Pasternak did this, Aaron Carter tweeted at Kanye and said, we should talk. And then that was his last tweet. The next day, Aaron Carter was found dead in a bath. There's something very evil brewing in Hollywood, and I think he was one of the bravest people ever who spoke out on what happened to him. And I won't deal with everybody talking about the after when we're not talking about the.
Now, I remember when he released those text messages, and it was still when he was married to Kim K, and he talked about having handlers, and he was very vocal about what was going on, right? And again, nobody gave a fuck. And so, but also I think part of it is that and it's no excuse, but the antics and the things that he does, because there's always so much going on with Ye, and because, it's always this thing where it's like 1 minute he's silent, then when he needs to release music, there's all this shit. And I think because there's so much going on, it's like no one focuses on one thing. But I think that people do need to pay attention. But it's like, let's say after, he after this case, right? Like, let's say he sues the doctor, and there's already proof that the doctor completely overprescribed him nitrous oxide, and that he was not doing it in an ethical manner. Like, when Milo released and leaked all that information about Ye's nitrous oxide addiction, he filed an affidavit. So there's a court record, and in that record, that's where it's the text messages and all that stuff. Like, he was probably the one person that was still around Ye that was like very, very concerned. However, if with no one being around him and all these yes men, I hope that we don't lose another great entertainer, another great Black entertainer, because no one cared to step in and, help them get control of their drug addiction. So, yeah, we do need, let's keep Ye in our prayers, all right? Now, coming up next. Okay, so there has been talk the last week, and that's the thing, it's always something like every new week there's like a new thing that's like the big thing. And this new presidential administration, they will try to get it passed. They will do what they have to do to, they're going to talk. It's like they have a pattern. They talk about it in the media or leak the story to the media. So for the next week or two, you'll hear them just talking about it. Like it'll get leaked by an insider. Then they'll be asked about it in an interview. And then from those interviews, they will then, just keep that's when they drive it in. And then after they drive it in, then they will try to make it happen. And then after they try to make it happen, then maybe it will get back down by the courts, or it'll pass and then it'll then get challenged in the courts, and it'll just be a back and forth thing. I say all that to say, lately, habeas corpus has been the topic of discussion for the next thing that could be challenged within the Constitution.
And I'm telling you, this is coming to a head. We are going to suspend the writ of habeas corpus if the courts keep ruling against this and don't allow these mass deportations to continue. Just like President Lincoln, this was an invasion. The country's at war. He's commander in chief. It's Article 2 power. And this is going to come.
Are you predicting that will happen, or arguing it should happen?
First off, there is going to be a constitutional crisis before the court leaves. You know that.
Okay, so here's the thing, right? The writ of habeas corpus ensures that the government must justify their reason for detaining or arresting somebody in court. And it basically prevents indefinite imprisonment without due process. Due process is another thing that's been a major talking point because of the issue with the mass deportations. And excuse me, the whole conversation with Abrego Garcia, who they're being sent to prison in El Salvador, and they're being kept there. And nobody that's being deported is being taken away with due process. Like they're not getting their due process before they're being deported. And I got one more point and then I'm going to drive it all in. And so a couple weeks ago, when Donald Trump was meeting with the president of El Salvador in the White House, there was a hot mic moment and a conversation that was caught on the mic. And this is what he had to say.
I feel supported. I want him to do, yeah. I said, homegrowns are next. The homegrowns built. You got to build about 5 more places. Yeah, that's fair. All right. Yeah.
Homegrowns are next. And so this is not an immigrant issue, right? Right now, like the argument is, oh, if you're here illegally, you have no rights to due process anyway, blah, blah, blah. But another thing too, Congress just passed a bill 2 weeks ago that allows US citizens to be deported. And so that's the thing, is that there's so much news that happens. You have to literally it's like pieces of a puzzle. And because they can't do things all at once. Like the same way with passing laws, it's a bill, and then it has to be voted on by Congress, and then it has to be approved by the Senate and all that other stuff. Like there are, rules and steps to get things implemented. And so in the implementation of these things, when we have so much news, a lot of times, unless if you're really paying attention to everything that's going on and everything that's coming out, which a lot of people don't, because it's really too fucking much. And then when you think of people's potential output and where they get their news from, they may not be getting the whole story, and they may not get the information of the facts that on how it can relate to them. And so so my concern is that when we talk about when they talk about homegrowns, they're not talking about white males. They're not talking about white females. This is something that will specifically target Black and Latino US citizens. And if Abrego Garcia was deported based off of his tattoos, and the picture they released was just Photoshop tattoos. There are so many Black men and Hispanic men that their tattoos are documented. And so the same way that they just made a rule that if you have a crown, you're with MS-13 or the Venezuelan gang, they took the most generic tattoos and associated them with gangs, and they just said, oh, that's it. What do you think they're going to do with Black men that they think are gang members, or Hispanics, US citizens that they believe are gang members? And the fear is that once they get rid of habeas corpus and they don't have to follow due process, the same way, take it back to stop and frisk and some statistics with the stop and frisk policy in New York. From 2003 to 2023, that's a 20-year span. This is 20 years of data collected. 90% of people stopped by the NYPD were people of color. Black and Latino New Yorkers made up 52% and 31% of all stops to be stopped and frisked, despite being only 23 and 29% of the population. So Black men were 52% of the group that was stopped and frisked. And white New Yorkers only made up 10% of the stops, but they represented 33% of the population. So when you look at just a small, like New York stop and frisk, that when you look at the whole country, and that's just looking at one major city or one major state, that mindset and that directive is going to be allowed. And even let's say if it's not just for the act of deportation, imagine the amount of Black men, Black women, minorities in general that are going to be unjustly arrested and then kept in court indefinitely and be detained indefinitely without due process. That means without a reason. They could be put to jail without a reason, without any cause. and it'll be a legal thing. Like, I'm from LA. I remember when there was a class action lawsuit for gang injunctions, but I also remember when the gang injunctions were happening. And the gang injunctions were when, if you were known or associated with a gang in Los Angeles, like if you were around a group, you could be stopped and stopped, searched, and possibly arrested based off that association. And so it came out and there was a class action lawsuit because that was like deemed unconstitutional. But if they get rid of the habeas corpus, which will remove due process, something like that wouldn't be held accountable. So that's something we got to watch out for, because it's like, even if they do, like, let's say, okay, they get rid of it, we know that there's going to be some sort of courtroom showdown to get it back. So, but it's just the fact that it's something, again, that has to be dealt with. So watch out for that, because if you keep hearing about it and it it does or doesn't happen, this is an administration that they will just make their way to it. And it's like, let's say, you give somebody an inch to take the whole mile. These are people that will take 2 miles when not even given an inch. And as you push back on those 2 miles, they are going to forge ahead and try to get to that 3rd mile. And I think that they do so much shit that it's like I think it's a fatigue. Like, there's so many cases on right now. There's so much that has happened within the last little over 100 days, and it's like, all we could do is just keep waiting out these 4 years. I'm tired. Another thing I'm tired of is the conversation of preference versus prejudice. So let's check out this clip from Paul Pierce on his podcast.
Why do you feel like men, especially NBA players, get with the white women? Is it because they're easy, quote unquote?
I got some theories, but I really want to hear it from him.
I do too. I want to hear it too.
I honestly think that maybe they appreciate maybe more and they apologize more.
Listen, I'm scared. Hold on.
No.
It's the laugh.
Hold on.
Laugh.
I mean,
I had an interview with
they don't mind being held accountable.
I'm so scared of this, y'all, because I had an interview with Columbus Short, and I asked him this similar question, and he said something, and I got dragged for filth. I was on Breakfast Club, I was on Shady, I had death threats for so long.
Okay, here's the thing, right? I am genuinely tired of how Black women are thrown under the bus in these kind of conversations. Now, if you notice, he never said, like, in his answer, he never, like, personally downed Black women, right? However, he opened the door, like, because when you look at the comments on the video, when you look at the comments on the repost, when you look at the discussions around it, that type of discussion opens the door for a multitude, from Black men to white men to it just opens the door for Black women to be dragged unnecessarily. And the thing is that if you prefer white women, whatever, Hispanic, whatever your preference is, you're entitled to that. Like, no one it can be upset because it's like, oh, you like this race, like, but you do not have to position your preference to open the door for prejudice against the racial group that you are a part of. Because, and then when you listen to this answer, like, oh, because they apologize more or like being held accountable. Here's the thing, right? Dear Future Wifey podcast has been trending the last like month, and that's a show where it's preachers and their wives that are interviewed, or people that are just heavily involved in the church and their wife, and all you hear is stories, and they're Black, and all you hear is stories is how these Black women were apologetic and were very accountable for the way their men treated them, as shitty as it was. And so it makes me question, maybe it's where you guys are finding these women. Maybe if you were looking for, a church-going Black woman, a wholesome Black woman, she probably would take your shit and apologize while taking your shit. I just think it's time to be mindful of these goddamn answers when the question comes, oh, why does somebody prefer white women? Because they do. It doesn't even have to be addressed, but for the rage bait and for the clickbait, and because they know that the conversation will get so many comments from, for one, Black women who are sick and tired of these discussions, and then two, the Black men who hate Black women that are gonna comment and just be extra with it, and three, the in between who just, it's the rage bait and it's the clickbait. And at some point, we have to have this conversation without creating the room for Black women to be dragged in this conversation or as a result of this conversation. On to the next. I feel like the Met Gala was gaslighting. I thought that there were a lot of people that, they did the big one with, how they came dressed. They were in theme. I mean, like, as theme as you could be, right? Because the theme was super fine, tailoring Black style. And I think this was just a ploy to capitalize off Black dollars and Black influence. And let's be real. Let's be fucking for real. This was the most money that this year was the most money the Met Gala ever raised. They raised $31 million, and that's the most they've raised in their 77-year history. Now, this is the first year that they let or allowed a group of Black people to be the chair of this Met Gala this year. And on top of that, Anna Wintour said that the theme was in honor of Andre Leon Talley, who was he was like her editor and her best friend in fashion for years. And when he wrote about how when she was done with him, she dismissed him, how small she made him feel, how he longed for his friend. And this book came out before he died. And when he died, they were not really on speaking terms. They weren't on good terms. And so a part of me feels like this Met Gala theme it could be one or two things, or, it could be both. It does feel like it was a disingenuous honor, right? But it could have been something where when when you do somebody wrong and they die and you don't get to fix it, so you hold on to that guilt. So in the middle of holding on to that guilt, you have to do something to put yourself at ease, to make the situation feel better, and to make yourself feel better about the situation so it doesn't eat you up at night. Like, that's really what I think this situation was. But another issue I had was that I just feel like it was like a one-time Black pandering. Like, I don't think that they will ever have a theme like this again. Um, One of the dynamics that it made me think about was um, the impact and the influence of Black fashion, and how, Black dandyism, from the dandy aesthetic or fashion trend, is where one of the things that they talked about was how when the slaves, from slavery to the, early 1900s, from the Renaissance to, the 50s and 60s, like, and the zoot suits, like, it was just a style that was owned and perfected by Black people. And I think the story of it is great, right? And it also reminded me of um the Black women of Louisiana. In 1786, the free Black women were ordered by the governor that they must wear a ck'n, which is a head wrap, and they had to place it. They could not be seen without that head wrap, because it basically put them in the same class as slaves, or at least, and beneath white women. And but they dressed it up because these were free Black women, and so they used expensive fabrics, and they adorned it with feathers and jewels, and just exquisite pieces and accessories, and they made it look so good that white women started wearing it. And that's what Black fashion is. We are the blueprint in so many ways. And there are so many Black aesthetics and things involved in Black fashion and Black female fashion where it's always considered ghetto, it's considered, bottom of the barrel. And, it's just, people snub their nose up to it until one white person says it's cool, and then next thing you know, it's trendy. And then they have like a new name for it. It happens on TikTok all the time. And even when it comes to, baby hairs, messy buns, large hoop earrings, like there are just certain aesthetics that are true to Black culture. And they're deemed classless until a white person approves it. And I feel like a part of that whole tone was displayed with the Met Gala this year. And again, if the Met Gala was something like, there are top Black stylists that, like June Ambrose, who talked about how many people she has styled for the Met Gala, and she has never been invited as a chair. That speaks volumes, and there are so many places that we are not wanted and we are not valued. But they know that once they allow us in the door, the influence and the dollar that we bring is unmatched. And with this Met Gala, we got gaslit into the honor when really it was just a cash grab. But that's just my opinion. And that's what Be Fucking For Real is about. It's unapologetic truths and unfiltered takes. And I don't know. Y'all let me know in the comments, talk to me. I talk back. Let me know what you think. Shout your opinions out, and I will be sure to continue the conversation next week in our live stream. So that's a wrap for now. I'm Miss Megan Liana, and this time was us to be fucking for real. And I'm going to see y'all next week.